We set?
I don't think so. Let's do this.
Okay, yeah, there it goes. We're live.
All
Hey,
right.
everybody. Welcome back to another Locker Room Access pregame show. Josh here with you today, joined by Fresh. And we are going to be previewing our game with Villanova starting in about a half hour. It's going to be on TNT today, so not one anybody has to search for. It's a regular broadcast channel. Should be pretty easy. So this will be a fun game. These are two teams that I don't know that you want to say the glory days are behind, but certainly feel different the last couple of years. Villanova, everybody knows had Jay Wright. He kind of abruptly retired after going to the Final Four, and then Kyle Neptune came in to take over. Hey, Jen, good to see you. Sorry, but Neptune he did one season at Fordham and came back. He was a long-time Jay Wright assistant. So kind of the same shoes that Coach Sanchez is in for the Hoos. Still trying to prove himself. So far, Villanova has basically been a 500 team the 2 seasons he's been there. And this year they have started out 2-2. So still trying to prove himself kind of the same way. Fresh, what have you seen? Have you
Wow,
seen much of
Neptune's he's already done 2 full seasons, huh?
Yes. He went 2 seasons. Like I said, both years they were roughly 500, and both years they went to the NIT and they got beat in the first round both years.
Yeah, I think it's, it went from 2 pretty much legends in their school. I'm sure Jay Wright, if he's not already Hall of Fame, is definitely Hall of Fame. Tony Bennett, a lot of people think that he probably will be Hall of Fame, at least the Virginia people. And it's a different feel, right? We'll see how many people it's in Baltimore of all places. I guess almost semi-equidistant. I'm sure Philly's a lot closer, but not that much closer. We'll see who goes. I was going to go. I wasn't able to, just logistically, not because of any reason. I really wanted to go. But kind of a weird place, weird atmosphere. So we'll see. It's a big game for both teams for sure. But we're 2-0. We beat the 2 C's, obviously, Campbell and then Coppin State. Obviously, the big deal now is let's see who starts. Is Rhodey back? Rodeo back? Is he still hurt? And if he is back, does Day play or start? And if Day does not start, does Day play more than 10 minutes this game?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the big thing. Obviously, Day really showed out against Coppin State. Now, granted, it is a little bit lower level competition. It wasn't like he was playing against another ACC team or another power conference school. But I thought he looked really good Monday night. I kind of think that his quickness, his shiftiness, his speed to be able to get, into the lane and to get a step on guys is something that the team definitely needs. There's not a lot of other guys on the roster currently that can kind of mimic that ability. And then looking at what Villanova does, they've been lining up kind of a more traditional set with 3 guards and 2 forwards, and their second forward is more or less a traditional center. But they found a little bit more success there going away from that and using their, superstar level, All-American level, whatever you want to say about him, top level player in the country, Eric Dixon. So Dixon's a 6'8" guy, and he can just flat out score from anywhere. He's got a great post game. He can shoot and light it up from outside. He's kind of just everything for them. They usually
kind of like a Mike Scott or more interior than
start a 6'11" center with him, but they've been better moving him down. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how Virginia matches up. Just looking at it, their point guard, Jameer Brickus, he's a 5'11", so smaller guy, pretty quick. He's a COVID year senior, used his extra year coming over from LaSalle. So it feels like a matchup maybe Day might be better suited for. I personally kind of think they might even play Day and Rhodey together. What do you think about that, Fresh?
I've said it all along. I wish Rhodey came off the bench. And it's not Rhodey hate. It's more because he can plug 3 positions easily, right? He can take a look at the game, let Day start at the point, Isaac, and then whoever at the 3, probably TJ, I guess. And then as the game flows and goes, he can sub Day, he can sub Isaac, he can sub TJ Power, move TJ down, or whatever you want to do with it. I wish that they would look at it that way and go that way, but it'll be telling if the unfortunate last name, the French spelling of the word brick to brickus, or is that Italian? Unfortunate last name. That's a Day matchup. If we're going 1-to-1, if you're doing 1 versus 1, 2-2, and 3-3 type thing. So do the coaches look at it that way, or are they just going to go back and say we're playing the more experienced Rhodey despite how not superior, but how much better the Day kind of looked at the point versus Rhodey's first game at the point. And I'm being specific about the point, not specific about the player, but as the point guard.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And I mean, that's the thing about when you have two different guys who have very different skill sets, but playing kind of the same position. There's times where you're going to need, one versus the other just to match up. I mean, there's going to be times where you're looking at and you're like, man, we really need to go Day. There's going to be times where you're like, man, we really need to go Rhodey. There might be games where an opponent, you can play them both. So we'll kind of see how it goes. I do think for the rest of the lineup, I think UVA matches up pretty well. Luka Poplar, people might remember, is a Miami transfer who joined Villanova this year.
Oh, wow.
We've seen him a few times. This is his senior year. He was at Miami for 3, so, matched up with him a few times. Last time they played, I'm sure most remember that might have been UVA's best complete game of the year last year. They held that Miami team to 38 points. And Isaac actually matched up with Poplar for a good bit of the game. I thought he did a pretty good job on him.
Why did he transfer? His NIL check didn't go through?
What's that?
Why did he transfer? His NIL check didn't go through from
I don't know. I mean, they say they have some issues down there with their money, so it's a good spot for him, though. I mean, like I said, I put in the preview. If you're thinking of it, how people like to commonly talk, especially in the NBA, Dixon is more or less their Batman, and Poplar has kind of been the Robin to that, kind of his helper, his sidekick, the number 2 guy that you could count on.
How big is he? What position? I forgot who he is.
So he's 6'5", and he's kind of a combo guard. Yep. He's better off probably playing 2 or 3 than he is as a lead.
That's right.
But he's a guy that he's going to get his shots up, and he's been scoring 15 a game for him so far this year. So,
yeah, matchup wise, I don't really know who guards Dixon. You think? Is that it's going to be a Saunders, right? To start.
Yeah, so I think it kind of depends on which way Villanova wants to go. Like I said, they've been starting Enoch Boyke, who is he's been through a few schools now. I think he started at Arizona State. Last year he was at Fresno State and transferred into them.
Yep.
But he's kind of been a relative non-factor, other than trying to provide a little bit of defense, even though they're not really a defensive team. But like I said, they found a little bit more success, even though they lost the game against St. Joe's earlier this week when they took him out of the lineup and moved Dixon down to the 5. So I think if they're starting the way they have been starting, you'd start Saunders on him and try to let him match up with Dixon. But like I said, Enoch only played 7 minutes in their game Tuesday night. So that might be a sign that they're looking to go a different direction. If he moves down, I think they'll just put Blake on him, see how Blake can do starting on him.
Blake on Dixon is a nightmare for us. I think I don't think we want to do that the way you've described him. I don't think I've seen Dixon play. But I keep reading and hearing all these things. What's up, Bill in Connecticut? Our bigs have to set the tone early. I agree, Daniil. Daniil Bryant says our bigs have to set the tone early, and we've been trying to do that. If you remember the first possession of the season, they did whatever. Long story short, the ball ended up to Blake, point blank under the basket. I've harped on this. And he turns and he hit a wide open Saunders for 3. So you went from a point blank 1.5 footer, 25-foot pass to a wide open Saunders, to be fair. And he missed a shot. That's neither here nor there. But I agree. When Blake or Saunders or Coffey or whoever, I know I'm saying his name wrong, if you're point blank, you got to go at somebody. If you get a block, take the foul, get and ones, play contact line.
Yeah, and that's been a thing where Jacob Kofi has really provided a big spark for the Hoos. And if I'm being completely honest, I think the other freshman, Ishan Sharma, has kind of done the same thing, just to a lesser level of it, as far as being successful goes, of bringing a lot of energy to the team. I mean, these are guys that, for Sharma, he's more of a marksman. He's going to be taking his shots. He pulls up as soon as he touches it. If he has a look, he's shooting. With Kofi, I mean, if he's going up, he's dunking it. He doesn't need to have a little hook shot or anything like that because of how powerful he's going at it. And I think that's something that this team definitely needs. I think it's something that they've kind of lacked the last few years, if we're being completely honest. Some guys that could kind of set the tone in that type of way.
Right. Yeah, you got to go with that stuff, and you got to feed off of it. And Kofi doesn't seem like a first year. His demeanor, his on court. Dragon said, "Let's go through Big Drip." I think Big Drip is probably Big Blake. And I've noticed bringing Blake out and playing through him, like who was that loser at Gonzaga. No, I'm kidding. He's not a loser. The guy Timmy. They played through him. He was an exceptional passer, very skilled. We've been doing that. Dribble handoffs with Blake, different things. I'm not sure who saw that for Blake and being able to handle the ball. It's another story. But these type of actions, let's watch for. And you're trying to get IMAC. Can we break him loose, and cut, and different things? So that's it's these teams know each other, right? I know it's two different coaches, but we have history, and we used to do the super when the scrimmages were still secret. It was always Virginia and Villanova, and then we play, and we have the two. The game where I guess Ty had a breakout game. The other game where DeZenzio had the last second tip in. They probably cheated there somehow, but there's history, man. By the way, I was not hating on B-More Dragon. It's just the oddest of places for Virginia and Villanova. I'd rather it be in Philly or be in Seville. Is this a special game? Is it like the tip-off?
Yeah, so this is part of what they're calling the Hall of Fame series.
Okay.
So there's actually a second game. Virginia Tech and Penn State play in the second game of the doubleheader.
I got you.
Yeah, so it's kind of one of those things. They're starting to put more of these together. It's kind of like how they refer to the multi-team events, the tournaments that they do earlier in the year.
Right.
Difference being you're only playing one opponent. You're not sticking around to have a little bracket or anything like that.
Can we pretend it's sponsored by Arby's just for locker room access?
I think it does have a sponsor, but we can at least call that our unofficial sponsor for the shows.
Right. Now, remember the one in Newark was sponsored by that by the place that wanted you to be sexually active or trying to help your sexual activeness, which was pretty funny. The Trojan Bowl or
some good commercials, I guess.
Yeah, I got a T-shirt from that. I no longer have it. Rest in peace, but that was fun. It's exciting though, Villanova, Virginia. So
yeah. I mean, this is always a fun game, and especially now, we're talking about two teams that combined won 3 of the last 8 championships. So, I mean, I know you're looking at them on the court today and you're kind of like, well, Villanova's a 500 team right now. We'll see about Virginia. They've played, some smaller teams, haven't really had competition yet. But at the end of the day, I mean, I have a lot of respect for what Jay Wright was able to do at Villanova. I kind of think in the same way that Tony Bennett was defense of college basketball, that Jay Wright was offense of college basketball. So I think it's a fun contrast to, kind of compare the two. And I mean, it's cool too that they're kind of following the same path, right? Like both teams have longtime assistants that were essentially their coach's guy in charge right now.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's still fun. Like it's a good contest to see what we'll have on both sides.
You know what this game is up in this area, and I see Tom Henske's on, and we used to live on the Upper East Side of New York. So a game like this, when you're right out of college, you're 25, 6, 7, 30 years old, you're in New York, you have your job downtown or wherever, and now it's Friday night, you get with all your boys, you pick a bar or somewhere to watch it, like let's call it Brother Jimmy's on 92nd and 3rd, why not? And you get there and there's a bunch of Virginia fans, but then there's a bunch of Villanova fans too. So for people that don't care, it's a nightmare because you go to a game and it's like annoying Villanova fans. The really fun and cool Virginia fans are there. You can't get like your regular seat. You can't and it gets to be way too much, but it's a lot of fun for New York. And I'm sure DC has the same. Somebody in the locker room access said the Pratt Bar. I don't know where that is. They said for some reason Virginia and Villanova decided to take it over tonight. So I'm sure there's going to be some really rough fights in that bar. A couple of tough whisperers trying to go at somebody, and obviously nothing will happen, but it's fun.
No, it's a fun. I mean, this is what the sport needs more of this, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't know that they need to be at neutral sites like this, but just more fun matchups like this early on. I mean, you can only play but so many Coppin states. Like, no offense to those guys, but it's more fun when the teams are matching up just to see what they've got.
Yeah, so Laura Henske, T-Ski, the group drink was the big giant green thing with the alligator in it. My 2 oldest sons may or may not have had a collection of about 30 of those alligators, and I blame you for at least 10 of them. Lori asked a great question. Let's dive into this one. Lori Collins. Tane had a nightmare, and it happens, or it doesn't, but he had a nightmare of a game. They stayed with him. He played through it, and it got worse, and it got worse. Do we see Tane tonight? And if we do, what do you think, Josh? Like, what kind of role?
Yeah, I mean, Tane had, I mean, let's be honest, not trying to pick at him at all, but it was probably the worst game that he could have possibly had. I mean, I don't think it could have gone much worse, for him based off of luck and just kind of how he was going to. But that being said, again, this is their first game against another power conference opponent, and it's a game against a team that maybe their record doesn't show it, but they do have high skill level on the roster. So this could be a spot for him where you kind of need that senior leadership and somebody to try to help with the team. I don't know what was up with him the other night. I mean, it kind of bothered me in a way that it almost seemed like he was disconnected. I don't know. I don't want to say anything personal against him, but it just seemed like he was completely off on the game. And I guess sometimes you have that. Sometimes you have a day where everything's off.
Yeah, so sometimes it happens. You get in this funk, and then you try to make up for it. And you try to make up for it. The way he was trying to make up for it, unfortunately, was nothing close to his strong suits. Right? It seemed to be kind of dribbling, and again playing against the zone. Don't play against them very much. When you play against the zone, and you're a guy like Tane, you probably want to do one hard dribble pass or wait for him on the perimeter. He's been so good at one or two dribbles and going up strong. You get into a zone, and the whole dynamic change. You beat your man, then there's three guys, right? And Tane hasn't been an exceptional passer, like in the teeth of the defense, so to speak. He's a very good passer on the perimeter. So anyhow, it happens. It happened. I was glad, and people disagree with me, that Ron and staff let him go through it. I don't think because there's one thing it's going to destroy his confidence. I don't think it's going to make the other teammates mad at him or favoritism. I think they respect Tane, what he's done, and let him try to get through it. And he's a grown man now, senior, and he's going to be a comm school graduate.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Tane's a guy that he's been there every day. Like, I don't know that Tane has ever missed a game due to injury, due to illness, due to anything. I mean, he's always been there. He's working with them in practice every day. These guys clearly know what he can do. So there's no reason to be flustered with him, especially in a game that you're gonna kind of win no matter what. At that point, it wasn't like it was really super hurting anything. So I agree with you, and I think our guy Jay actually commented in the forum, talking about how the coaches are trying to let him finish out on a more positive note, as opposed to just being pulled for the funk that he was in. And I agree with you guys on that. I mean, early in the season, if you can afford to play through it, to try to let guys work through that and to kind of face that adversity head on and try to build a little bit of confidence off of it, I think it's the right move. So I mean, it sucked for him. I hated that it was that bad, but I'm glad that he got through it, and I'm hoping he can show up tonight.
And look, Tane has had some big time games. He's done in big time situations and done real things. It's not like it's a favor. Oh, you've stuck it out. You didn't transfer in this day and age. You're a good student. He works his ass off. And he's had big games on big stages. We can go to the Iowa game, whatever. He's a real player, and I'm trying to think of something similar other than myself. My first year playing 1 minute, having 3 turnovers and 2 fouls against NC State at home. Obviously, the referees were cheating for Chris Corciani and Rodney Monroe, but it didn't matter. It was my first year. And, what I did was go play in Slaughter afterwards and fix all that stuff. So he'll be fine. How about start Tane tonight? Let's go with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind seeing the boost of confidence for him. That's something too, not harping on Tane, but just in general. I've kind of liked that Coach Sanchez has been more willing to let these guys play through some things. I did like, he got on TJ Power pretty good. I think it was in the Coppin State game, right at the start of the second half. Either game was right at the start of the second half. And basically the first basket was given up because of a defensive lapse on Power's part. And Ron pulled him, I mean, instantly. Like, and that I agree with, let's have some non-negotiables, but let's also let some guys work through some things. And I just kind of like seeing that, because it felt like forever guys have been tentative almost in that, if something goes wrong, they're going to sit.
Well, I'll tell you what I've loved about Ron early, and this is specific to, is it Kofi or Coffee? I want to try to say it right. Kofi? Jacob, Kofi, big drip. He's had some exceptional offensive games for a first year, right? It's the first 2 games, whatever, but really good. But he's had a lot of defensive lapses. Enough, right? Not 1-to-1, but 2 good, 1 bad. And Ron let him play. I like that about Ron. If you have a guy cooking on offense and he gives up 1 out of every 5, like on a pack line, freshman mistake, defensive error, not effort error, not, there's just a mistake in learning. and he let him keep going. That I think Ron is a little bit different than what I felt like. Who was our coach before Ron? Tony. I was kidding. Before Coach Bennett was a little harsher and a little more like, nah, you want to be there, you better be here. So I like it.
Yeah, I like most of what I've seen from Coach Sanchez so far. Again, it's not good. Like I think some people think like, oh, they've talked about this faster offense and doing these things. Well, at the end of the day, all the other coaches except for Tony are still intact. The roster, save for one player, is still intact. So it's kind of like you weren't really, I mean, fully expecting anything too crazy. But I like what Ron has done a little bit differently here and there, and I like how he's kind of set himself. I like the tone that he's set. He keeps a calm demeanor, but I mean, you could tell he was a little frustrated, a little bit Monday night, and it kind of seemed like as a result, as soon as you saw a little bit of his, facial expressions, his, some of the ways he was kind of getting after the guys, they immediately took off and started playing better. So I like what Ron's done so far.
No, I totally agree. So I'm Team Ron. This isn't the right place for it. But at the beginning, I was like, I wish Jason got it, and then I was like, just get a new coach and move on. I hope we just make Ron. I hope we make Ron the coach. And I think they said during the game they announced him as the interim head coach or the interim coach. That's
Yes.
garbage. He's our
They
head coach.
did do that, and I will say I agree 1,000%. I
Chris,
went to the first game against Campbell, and they did it then. And then we had people posting saying they did it Monday night as well against Coppin. I don't like that either. To me,
no,
you're announcing one game. Like it's not a whole season thing. For that game, he's the head coach. He should get that respect. I mean, I didn't like it either. I agree completely.
that's right. So here's
But I
Chris
do have
wants to ask.
some breaking news here for us, fresh. So, according to our guy Preston Willett, who is all over the place on social, does some writing for the Saber. But anyway, he is at the game, and he just posted that Day appears to be starting again tonight, and Andrew Rohde was not seen for warmups.
Oh wow, I heard Dante was.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I heard Dante was at least in the building. I'm not sure if he's seen for warmups. Rhodey is not. Maybe Rhodey transferred. And this is get us into Chris West asking Rhodey honestly run the point guard effectively. See, if you would have just said honestly run the point for this team, I would have said nope. When you say effectively, no. The answer is no. I'll leave it there. Should I discuss or not? I can tell you whether people like this or not. I played in the ACC. It was a different time in the '90s. Point guards were special. It was. If you wanted to be a lead, I call it more of a lead guard. If you want to be a lead guard in the ACC, Georgia Tech, Virginia, Clemson, North Carolina, you have to be a real point guard, right? And it's not a filler. It's not I hope you can do this. There's real guys. And even if you look now in the last 10 or 15 years when it's changed a lot, every team's got a real point guard.
Mm-hmm.
The freshman at Notre Dame, that kid's unreal. I think Georgia Tech had a freshman last year who was a very good lead point guard, so to speak. And these are off the radar type teams, right? Forget when you're talking about the Dukes and North Carolinas, et cetera. So, I don't think so. I think it's unfair to him. I think he'd be better served, as I've said, come off the bench, fill one of three places, however many minutes, and do it that way. But
Yeah, I think a lot of Rhodey's issues, and this goes back to last year as well, has been that he's kind of been put in positions that were, like you said, a little unfair to him. Being asked to do kind of more or different from what his role probably should be. So if he could, I'm kind of with you. I think if he could settle in and maybe be like sixth, seventh, not saying eighth, like in a bad way, but one of those guys coming off the bench quickly, subs, he can sub all three positions from the guard spots. He can kind of help the team, and you can be a vocal leader, on the court from there as well. Like it's not that big of a thing that he's got to be specifically playing point guard to do all that. I'm personally with you too, though. I prefer Day at this point. I think what he brings is so unique and different to the rest of the roster that I think it only benefits the guys around him. I think his skill set is one that can make the rest of the team kind of continuously play better. I would like to see what Christian Bliss can do eventually at some point. I posted in the forum earlier that, they put up some photos of the team doing their kind of walkthrough practice earlier today, and that Bliss was there in uniform. So I don't know. There hasn't been anything I've seen so far saying if he went through warmups or not. My assumption is going to be he's not, but we'll see here in a few minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. Those guys, man. They're not allowed to talk about anything. They don't talk. I wouldn't ask anyway. It's not that interesting until the game starts. To me,
yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah, again, to the point about Rhodey, I don't think it's fair to him certain things, but at some point when you're given that spot and you're given the 30 minutes a game, et cetera, you should just say, you know what, I'm going to go for mine. Team's great, all that, but if I'm going to be in the game 30 minutes, I'm going to get shots up, I'm going to make passes, this type of thing. All right, we are 5 minutes away, it looks like, so let's get into predictions. Everybody on the side, everybody chatting with us, send what you guys think, and then I'll just come over the top and tell you what's going to happen, but that's okay. I've never been wrong, obviously.
Hey, while we're doing it too, another update from Preston. Rhodey is in the layup line now, so he's in uniform. He's got video. You can see him running on the court playing. So maybe he'll be coming off the bench, hopefully. They did officially announce the starting lineup too. It's going to be Day, iMac, TJ Power, Saunders, and Blake. So the only difference, again, is, sticking with Day like they did from Coppin State. We'll see how much Rhodey can contribute. But anyway, sorry for that. Back to predictions. I think this is probably the way that they are looking at the game as far as a rough score goes. I think they're probably roughly in line. Over under on this thing was set at 128.5, I believe. And Villanova is a 3.5 point favorite, I think is what it was. So you're kind of looking at a, mid 60s to mid 60s type of score. I think that's probably about right. I think, the pace thing kind of meets. I think the offense to the defense kind of meet. You find somewhere kind of some common ground. I'm going to go Virginia wins this one 65-62.
I think you're way high, but that's okay. I think a random arena, no offense, Baltimore, Laurie, nice, 80-78. I think it's going to be a low scoring, 59-55, and Dixon has 38. That's my prediction.
And that honestly might not be too far off because he is certainly capable of doing that. Let's see. We got Chris in here, 69-63. Daniil's back again, 71-64. So,
that's putting them up 5. Yeah, and again, that's a good point. If Rhodey can't go tonight, who's the backup point guard? I think you see Isaac McNeely. I don't think we run a traditional point guard if Bliss and Rhodey are out, right? Who's left? Nobody. So I think you kind of bring it up by committee. Saunders has showed that ability. Coffey's not scared of the ball. I don't think we want to bring the ball up initiating offense. TJ Power, get ready to bring the bell up from back in his Peach Jam day. Essentially won. Good job, rookie. 57-55, my score. He essentially ran point guard. He can handle it. We haven't seen it. I want to see TJ be in the game. Like I haven't noticed him. I just don't notice him on the court. And when I watch, and guys kind of look alike, and you get older and you can't see shit and all that. But I just want him to stick out to me, right? The way Coffey sticks out, Saunders does, Blake does. Blake sticks out in good and bad ways. And Rhodey, when he goes backwards, when he dribbles, he sticks out. That's a joke. So, all right, game's got to be coming on anytime, right?
Yeah, we're about 2 minutes out.
Are they replacing the TNT crew with Charles Barkley, those guys, with Chris Havlicek and Mark Jerome, and that's why they're not here with us and they didn't invite us, Josh?
That could be it. I mean, there's I've got the TV on. It looks like an old movie rerun on. Not sure what it is, but
whatever
anyway,
it is, Chris Havlicek's seen it, guaranteed. Whatever the movie is.
We might see him on here in just a minute. They're standing courtside with some microphones ready to go.
All right. We'll see you guys at the half, hopefully with some interesting stuff to say and good stuff, obviously. Go Hoos.
Be back at halftime. Go Hoos.